these towns.
Zono zetu ubumnyama zono zetu ubumnyama senzenina tina What have we done?
What have we done?
Tina,
What have we
what have we done?
What have we done?
Tina,
What have we
zono
done?
zetu
What have we done?
Tina,
What have we done?
zinzenina
What have we done?
Tina,
What have we done?
thank you.
Yes, comrades, can we ask people please to sit down, those who can and who do have seats, and at the people at the back, if they are smaller children, or younger people, if you can, no, not in the aisle for safety reasons, but if you can perhaps give your seat up for people who are older. We have run out of seating space at the back. This is also our alternate venue to get out of the wind. It was not our first plan, so this has been our backup plan, so I hope you do have patience with us. We are here today to commemorate a very, very important event in our global history today, and we have a range of speakers, as has already been mentioned. First, I want to say, all of you have on your seats a couple of papers. We do not want to leave this venue and have these papers lying on the ground. They've been put on your seats, please, for you to read. If you have done reading and you don't want to take it, please take it with you and share it with your family, with your friends, with your organizations, with your schools, your institutions. There's a very informative insert in the Muslim Views that gives you a timeline in the center spread of the genocide that we've been witness to in Palestine for the past 75 years. Use it as an educational tool to inform yourselves, but also your family and your friends. Similarly, the other insert, which has our resolution, which we will end the day with. So please take these things home. We do not want them lying on the ground when you have left. We are going to start our program today. We've got groups of speakers. We've got civil society speakers. We've got parliamentary speakers, all of whom are going to have 3 minutes or less. And we've got the Reverend Dr. Alan Busak, who will give us our keynote address in the middle of all of this. So please have patience with us so that we can start the day. So I'm going to start with the civil society speakers. If we could have Janet Jobson from the Desmond and Leah Tutu Legacy Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. It's such an honor to speak here today, in part in the memory of Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who was such a powerful, powerful activist and person who stood in solidarity with the Palestinian people. As I was thinking about what to say today, I remembered back to a visit I had from a Palestinian filmmaker in December. He had just walked through the Truth to Power exhibition that's at the Old Granary, and he came into my office with tears in his eyes. Tears in his eyes because he'd just witnessed in the exhibition the apartheid atrocities that South Africans were exposed to and perpetrated against South Africans. And tears in his eyes because he felt so clearly that those were the same atrocities that were being perpetrated against the Palestinian people every day. Archbishop Tutu was outspoken that the Palestinian people are being subjected to an apartheid system of oppression. And the recent ramping up of violence in Gaza and the West Bank is part of an ongoing project of oppression and dehumanization. As I read the news, I think back to The Kids of Jenin Camp, the film that this filmmaker had made following a group of children over 10 years. These young people are now, many of them, leaving school and trying to make a peaceful adulthood, but they are living in a state of constant surveillance and violence. And what a travesty it is for children to grow up monitored, bullied, and threatened by soldiers and military vehicles. What a tragedy it is, too, that it is young Israelis conscripted to monitor and police and shoot their peers. As the Arch noted in 2002, Israel will never get true security and safety through oppressing another people. A true peace can ultimately only be built on justice. Central to the Arch's thesis and practice of Ubuntu is the clear understanding that in dehumanizing others, we dehumanize ourselves. This is why for him, overcoming apartheid in South Africa was both a project of salvation for white South Africans as it was a project of liberation for Black South Africans. This is why it is true liberation for Israel will only be possible at the point that the oppression of the Palestinians ends. Liberation for South Africans came through the combination of local political mobilization, mass movements, as well as sustained international pressure through sanctions and divestment. It took the voices of many and diverse civil society groups, individual in their identity, but coalescing in the global anti-apartheid movement to bring apartheid in South Africa to an end. It is vital that we as South Africans use this experience to build our support for civil society action across the world. The Arch made loud calls for global support for sanctions, boycott, and divestment from Israel. He noted that what ultimately forced apartheid and liberation struggle leaders together around the negotiating table was the cocktail of persuasive, non-violent tools that had been developed to isolate South Africa economically, academically, culturally, and psychologically, which at a certain point, at the tipping point, made the then government realize that the cost of attempting to preserve apartheid outweighed the benefits. And even when the governments of the US and the UK refused to apply sanctions on South Africa, ordinary Americans and British people took to the streets. They boycotted South African products and made their voices heard. Just as the world took a collective stance against the apartheid government in South Africa, so we must take a collective stance against the ongoing apartheid policies in Israel. It is important to note that although the Arch was often criticized for being anti-Semitic because of his stance on Israel's actions, he was very clear. He said, "We are opposed to the injustice of illegal occupation of Palestine. We are opposed to the indiscriminate killing in Gaza. We are opposed to the indignity meted out to Palestinians at checkpoints and roadblocks. We are opposed to violence, but we are not opposed to Jews. We must mobilize our righteous anger and grow the fuel of the struggle against apartheid, but we must not turn that anger into hatred or into violence. For if we dehumanize others, we will damage our own humanity." As we gather here today, may our loyalty and our solidarity be firmly with the people of Israel and Palestine, who will all only be free when apartheid ends. Thank you.
Amandla. Next up, Abida Adams from GUSA, Western Cape General Secretary, the voice of the workers in the Western Cape. Provincial.
Mandla! Long live the spirit of Palestinian of no surrender, long live! Long live the Palestinian spirit of no surrender, long live! Comrades, thank you for having us here. I think I've seen there are quite a number of political parties who are present. And from us, from the workers and the working class, we want to say to all these political parties that it is not enough for you to make statements to say that we support the Palestinian people. We want practical support of the Palestinian people. So every time you go to a committee hearing, even if it's about education, we want you to raise the cause of the Palestinian people. And then also for the ANC and for the ANC government who's also present here, we are saying to you that we are taking note. On Thursday, the American ambassador to South Africa complained, alleging that South Africa is selling arms to Russia. And immediately Cyril Ramaphosa has instituted a commission of inquiry. But nothing has been done to date to deal with the thousands of young South Africans who serve in the Israeli army. And we are saying to that ANC government, we see you, and we are taking note, and we are not going to be quiet. I'm also speaking on behalf of the workers at Clover. We've got a battle against Clover for more than 2 years already. Clover has now been taken over by an Israeli company, majority owner there. 700 workers has lost their jobs, unfairly dismissed. That struggle is still continuing. So we're also saying to the workers and to the working class and the communities, if you're saying that you support the cause of the Palestinians, your support must also be practical. That is why we are calling for the continued boycott of Clover. But we cannot sit here today and say that I support the cause of the Palestinians, but we do not support the demands for people here to have decent jobs and to have decent housing. And when we see people take to the streets for against load shedding, we sit in our houses and we say, "Nee, wat gaan dan met hulle?" But now that we're at stage 6, we're saying, "Oh, when is the EFF going to the streets again?" Our solidarity must be practical. And when we're saying that we are supporting and that we are against imperialism, the fight of the Palestinian people is not a fight about religion only. It's not only a fight about Al-Aqsa. It's a fight against imperialism. It's a fight against genocide. And if we are peace-loving people, we need to support the Palestinian people in every way. But our solidarity must be local. So when we see all the outside of the castle, we see a number of people who are unhoused. We need to support their fights, and we need to hold this city accountable to say that we want decent jobs, we want decent houses, and we cannot survive on a 350 grant. So that is why it's important, comrade, for us that when we say we support the cause of the Palestinian people, it's not just on the day when we commemorate Nakbah. It must be every day. We must remember the struggle of the Palestinians. We must also remember the struggles of all working class people and poor and exploited people all over the world. Amandla! Amandla! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very, very much, Abida, and I hope that you will heed the call that she's put out. We're now going to have a little interlude. I'm going to call up one of our youth performers, Marilyn, and accompanied by Glenn and daughter or son, Reed, sorry, going to accompany with some music. And Marilyn has written a specific poem for Palestine. We need to laud our youth of today who are building the awareness of the struggle of Palestine as part of their own development, their own upbringing. And so we welcome and commend this young lady here for her poem, and we will have another performer later. Thank you. Go ahead.
So this poem really has no title because it's supposed to be a free verse. There's no structure, just like the people of Palestine have no structure currently. The bang of the gun, the fall of the innocent, blood on the road, lifeless before the rise of the sun. Such has become a young man's reality. The crawl of a mother, the fall of a father, lifeless before the rise of the sun. Such has become an infant's reality. I wonder, when will we dare admit impediments? Ubuntu ngubutu ngabantu. A person is a person because of other people. You are because I am. The crawl of a mother, the fall of a brother. Why are we so hell-bent on these senseless killings? When will we find unity amongst each other? The fall of a mother, the crawl of a father, the bang of the gun, blood on the road, lifeless before the rise of the sun. When will the children ever know any peace or any fun? When will we find unity amongst ourselves? When will a new dawn be born? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let us not forget that the greatest tragedy in this genocide is the murder and the killing of children. Children represent the future. And to have the number of Palestinian children, as we have had this very week, being killed in the way that they have, is emblematic of what a genocide is. It is an attempt to bring the lineage to an end. But with our solidarity, we continue to give the people of Palestine hope that that lineage will never end, that their legacies will always be remembered. Next up, we have got a series of speakers, and I'm going to ask Yusuf because I can't.
She doesn't do electoral stuff, neither do I. Thank you. A warm welcome to you. Free Palestine! Free Palestine! We are now going to hold those who have been elected to parliament and to the legislatures accountable for the injustices in South Africa and the world. And we're going to give them, each one of them, 2 minutes to speak. And we're going to try to accommodate them as best as we can if they do it in less time. But EFF Aisha Kassim. Is Aisha here? Aisha, you're supposed to sit in front.
Thank you, fighters. We only have 2 minutes, so let me try to start within that 2 minutes. Thank you very much. Shukran, Brother Yusuf. My name is Aisha Kassim. I'm the Provincial Treasurer for the EFF in the Western Cape and also a member of the Western Cape Provincial Legislature. representing the EFF. Let me firstly thank the organizers of this event for inviting the economic freedom fighters onto this very important platform which speaks in solidarity with the people of Palestine. But I'm not going to repeat what the previous speakers have said, and I'd like to rather emphasize on this, what it actually means to be in solidarity with the people of Palestine. As we are sitting here today, are we actually really fully in solidarity with the people of Palestine? Because being in solidarity with the people of Palestine is more than just showing up for today's event. It is more than just showing up for an annual protest to Parliament. It is more than just doing lip service and posting your solidarity on social media. Because it cannot be, when we come here today and we say that we stand with the people of Palestine, the first thing that many of us will do when we step out here today is to continue to purchase products and support companies and organizations that contribute to the destruction and mass murder of Palestinians. It cannot be that if we say we stand with the oppressed, but the first thing we do when we take to the election to the polls next year is go and vote for the Democratic Alliance, who are openly supportive to the Israeli apartheid state. It cannot be that when we say we stand with the oppressed, that we support a political party like that, who in 2018 made it very clear to all of us when they opposed and slammed the South African government when they tried to retract the South African ambassador to Israel. So we really need to decide here, what are we? Are we on the side of the oppressed, or are we on the side of the mass murderers? It's very easy, this one. We cannot say that we stand with the oppressed and that we're with the people of Palestine, but back here in our own communities, we are treating our people the exact same way by oppressing Black people and denying Black people of their rights, among other issues that we fail to understand and fail to act on when we say that we stand with the oppressed. Because this issue of Palestine is a very easy one. It is not an issue. It is not an issue of religion. It is not an issue of race. It is an issue of human rights. And just like in South Africa, the land of Palestine was stolen. Palestinians have been treated. Palestinians have been treated in. I'm getting nervous here. Sorry. I'm looking at my time and you're making me very nervous. But let me go to the EFF's contribution. The EFF would like to also add to the South African government to develop and implement institutional frameworks that would enable effective investigations and prosecute all South Africans who aid and abet the crime of apartheid, and more so to prosecute all South Africans serving in the Israeli Defense Force under regulations of the Foreign Military Assistance Act of 1998, and to display zero tolerance and to hold to account with the full might of law all South Africans, organizations, and individuals that support the policies. And in conclusion, we call on all South Africans and in the international community to continue to stand in solidarity with the people of Palestine, and more so, we call for the support in intensifying of the resistance. Long live Palestine, long live! Long live the resistance, long live! Amandla! Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Aisha. When I asked Dr. Busak to speak to us, he also said, Yusuf, I'm very passionate about this, so don't restrain me. And thank you for what you've said now. Khalid, as the ANC person, your 140 words starts now. And next, the Al-Jamaat person. Thank you.
Amandla, comrades and friends, as we commemorate the Nakbah today here in the castle, my mind cannot help but wander to the days when this particular place was a sign of colonialism and oppression in our land. As we gather here today, we cannot lose the significance of this particular place, a place where slaves were held and died, and from which many were subjugated because of accident of birth. Yet today, the place has become a beacon of hope. In the past, there was the apartheid flag. Today, we have the flag of the new South Africa. How proud we are as the former oppressed people in the city when we are able to gather here for an event commemorating the people of Palestine, when we're able to celebrate the heritage of those who fought colonialism in the Cape. But that day when the new South African flag took its rightful place, we also knew that the castle has earned its name as a castle of good hope. Today, we hope for the freedom of the Palestinian people. Today, we hope for a Palestine free of apartheid. Today, we stand here in the castle of good hope and hope for one united Palestine, where Jews, Muslims, and Christians, where Arabs and Israelis will live side by side as equal citizens. I'm honored to have this place, the Castle of Good Hope, in my constituency. But a few meters away, we also have District 6, a place that is also close to the struggle of the people of Palestine. Today, as we commit our support to the people of Palestine, I want to reiterate the determination and the resolve of the overwhelming membership of my organization, the ANC, the Freedom of Palestine. While the ANC may face, and rightfully so, many criticisms, and while the ANC national government has not yet expelled the Israeli ambassador, has not yet cut ties with the Zionist state, has not criminalized people who are going to go and fight in the Israeli Defense Force, there are those of us within who are agitating. There are steps being taken. There are those who are lobbying and who are calling for the cutting of ties with the apartheid state. Many have become disillusioned with the ANC on the issue of Palestine, and rightfully so. But many believe that the ANC is only paying lip service to the people of Palestine. But I want to assure you today that the overwhelming membership and leadership of the organization will never abandon the cause of the freedom of Palestine. Here in the Western Cape, it was the African National Congress in the Western Cape legislature that exposed the DA-led education department sending our history teachers to apartheid Israel to come back here and teach about the issue of Palestine from a Zionist lens. And now those visits have stopped because the ANC has exposed that. We stand together shoulder to shoulder with the people of Palestine, as we stand also shoulder to shoulder with the people of Cuba, with the Sahrawi people, but also with people in gang-infested areas in the province, with people suffering as a result of landlessness in this particular province. We meet today when our rulers, in conclusion, the governing elite seem to be faced again with the pressure of bending to the will of imperial authority on the issue of the Russian ship. We must stand clear in unity against any bending of our principles, our foreign policy principles, to appease the United States of America's hypocrisy. Even though we are literally in the dark and the doomsayers are on the loudspeaker, I can assure you that there are still those of us in this organization who are committed to Palestine and who are committed to even getting ourselves into trouble organizationally for taking a stance on this particular issue. Finally, I want to thank our colleagues from the various political formations. Al-Jamaa Mullah Brinkes, my sister Aisha, Sheikh Iman is here as well. Civil society for standing together. Yes, we have our differences. Even within the Palestinian solidarity movement in the Western Cape, there are differences of opinion on approach. But let us at least agree to a minimum program of action and unite, because the people of Palestine need us to be united. They look up to us. Let us not also use the Nakbah Day to further divisions inside of Palestine because of our own organizational egos that we have. The cause for Palestine must not be one for us to score our cheap political and civil society egotistical points, comrades. The people of Palestine are looking up to us to be united and to be firm in our resolve. Amandla.
Thank you. Action speaks louder than words, and let us get those actions going. Our next speaker is from Al-Jamaa and is representing Hanif Hendricks.
Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Khalil Brankais. I'm a representative of the Al-Jamaa in the Western Cape Legislature. Al-Jamaa extends its gratitude to the organizers of this event, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. Amandla, long live the resistance. Long live the resistance movements in Palestine. Long live. Free, free Palestine. Al-Jamaa's leader and member of parliament, Honorable Hanif Hendricks, he sends his revolutionary greetings. He unfortunately cannot be present today, and I have been and I've been tasked to read his message of solidarity. The Al-Jamaa party is sickened by the Zionist security forces' ongoing atrocities perpetrated against Palestinians. The Nakbah of 1948 continues today in Palestine through mass demolitions of their houses, occupation of their land, mass detention, daily bombings and killings, brutal attacks on worshippers in Masjid al-Aqsa al-Mubarakah and churches. We do not wonder why they act cruelly and brutally towards worshippers, as we are fully aware of their disdain for these oppressed societies, besides the Palestinians, but globally too. These brutal acts occur daily with the world watching, or rather turning a blind eye. And the United Nations refuse to take any punitive action against the Zionist apartheid regime. Al-Jamaa states clearly that we do not call on America and its allies to help liberate Palestine. They are the aggressors and perpetrators of crime against Palestinians and liberation struggles in other parts of the world too. Al-Jamaa reiterates its calls to the South African government to supply military weapons to the resistance movements, Amandla, in Palestine to defend themselves against the Zionist onslaught, to defend their women and children and all their mosques and churches. The Palestinian resistance movements deserves more than just lip service from our government. I was in Libya where the Palestinians vowed military assistance to the ANC and other liberatory movements to free South Africa from apartheid. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And we hope that this is going to be translated in Parliament, in legislation, which will intensify the boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaign and declare Israel as an apartheid state. If we can translate that into a legislation, then we'd have achieved our goal. Words, freedom is more than just words. Imam, Sheikh from the NDF.
Jazakallah. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon to our honored guests here, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Palestine shall be free. Free Palestine. Palestine will be free. Let me start off by saying that yes, indeed, we have initiated the process, particularly from a parliamentary perspective. I think many of you are aware that we did pass a motion for the downgrading of the South African embassy in Israel to a liaison office. It's the first step amongst many. It took about 8 years to get this motion on the table and have it approved. And I want to thank all those political parties that supported me in ensuring that that motion was adopted. But I want to assure you, brothers and sisters, what is going on in Palestine is not about Muslims. It's not about Christians. People whose rights are being violated are Muslims, Christians, Jews. So let the colonialists not divide us on religion. We are all the children of Adam and Eve. We are one extended, united family. That is all we are. But I want to say that we have now gone one step further. We have already initiated a process of asking for, first of all, to deal with the issue of dual citizenship of the South Africans that are going to Israel and training in the military in Israel and enjoying dual citizenship between South Africa and Israel. It must come to an end. In fact, it is a risk to this country that South Africans are going and training in Israel in the military and coming back to South Africa. We have also initiated the process of asking for all Palestinians to have visa-free entry into South Africa. We've gone one step further in saying that, indeed, I think we need to have stringent conditions set for Israelis that want to visit South Africa. If you remember, a few years ago, you were having a water crisis in the Western Cape. When we raised the issue and then we divulged the truth, what was happening is that you did not have a water crisis, but the DA government in the Western Cape were getting a 600 million rand kickback from the Israeli government and said that you had a water crisis. And after that was exposed, it stopped. So what happened to the water crisis? You don't have one anymore. So yes, indeed, what I want to say again, people in Palestine are not having their human rights violated on one day in the year. They are not dying one day in the year. They are not being injured one day in the every other day of their lives, they have to face this human rights violation. So we need to intensify our struggle every day in this country, like we've done during the days of apartheid, so the people of Palestine can be free. And lastly, I want to say on the issue of boycott, remember, sanctions work for us, and sanctions can work once again. I want to acknowledge, I think it is a spa in Grassy Park, and I went there a couple of times. They don't even sell a Clover product in the shop. Now that is what we need to do. What you eat, make sure it does not come from Israel, and it does not come from the United States either. What you drink, make sure it does not come from Israel, and it does not come from the United States. What you wear, make sure it does not come from Israel, and it does not come from the United States of America. So that is my plea to us. Let us intensify the struggle to free the people of Palestine. And I know if you see what is happening in the United States of America at the moment, they are almost crippled. The economy is down. They are seriously in debt. The infrastructure is collapsing. Homelessness is on the rise. If you see what's happening in Israel with the protests and things, yes, indeed. My time is up here, unfortunately, but I want to say the struggle has begun. Let's intensify. Let's work together so our brothers and sisters in Palestine and all over the world whose rights are being violated will come to an end. I thank you all.
Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. So you've heard the parliamentarian speak. That was the parliamentarian speak. But like Yusuf said, freedom does not come with words, they come with action. And today we are all here to add our voices, to appeal to all of you who have the power within Parliament to pass legislation so that we can legislate BDS against Israel. So for a light interlude, we now call upon another youth, Iman, who has also written a special poem for Palestine. I can't see Iman. Oh, there she is. So Glenn, if you want to accompany Iman, you're welcome to do that.
Assalamu alaikum. I extend a greeting of peace to every person here. My name is Iman Zanele Omar, and this is my poem for Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. We scream, free, free Palestine, hoping the world will hear us this time. That there'll be some kind of intervention from the divine. Yeah, Rob, send our people justice for decades of Zionist crimes. Another day of devastation, another 1,000 lives taken, and for what? Land? Power? How can one claim ownership of land that does not belong to you? That soil was fertilized by the very people you persecute, and the world is mute. Our own humanity simply failed us once again. Where are our leaders? All talk again? So we left screaming, free, free Palestine, all over again. Hoping someone hears our cries, all these so-called Muslim countries hiding behind their cowardly pursuits of greed and lies, robbing their own people and seeing how they drop like flies. Somewhere along the line, our consciousness has died. If it's power they crave, greed is that wave they'll ride to the grave, and sometimes it feels as though we've gone so far into the darkness we cannot be saved. But still, resilience remains, a strength of a people that have nothing left to lose. So they continue to fight despite a common fate. That is the cause they choose. As bright and mighty as the sun, hear them run, chanting free, free Palestine until that is the outcome. And when all is said and done, justice will have won. But for now, we keep on screaming while they keep on killing. And there will be a reckoning day where they will answer for those bodies that lay. But for now, we'll pray. Dear God, show our people the way, guide them with the light of your rays, put their minds at ease and give their hearts peace, and may we witness the day where Palestine is finally freed. Thank you.
Thank you to both Iman and Marilyn. Really testimony to the creativity and the consciousness of our youth. May God bless them and inspire other youth to follow a similar path. We now have another group of youth who were privileged to tour Palestine, a soccer team, and there are 4 or 5 of them who are going to perform a little skit. If we can ask the people sitting right here in the front, if you could just give them a little bit of space here, please. And they are going to reenact a scene that you should recognize from the news. And they're going to do this to the sounds of genocide.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bubi Kasim, and I'm from Tripolis. And we had the privilege to travel to Palestine, and also the privilege to bring a team from Palestine about 5 years ago. And what we have witnessed is what we're going to display to you now, what's a normal day in Gaza and in Palestine, and what happens to these youngsters. I know there's a lot of you that are shouting, chanting, and marching. We decided to put more action to it, to go and visit our brothers and sisters, because that is what they're actually crying for. When you go to Palestine, they say, what we really want from you people is to come to us, to come and visit us, come and be with us. And this is what we did. And what happens in Palestine is exactly this. You will find kids playing in the street, kids playing in the rubble, and what they love is football, a ball just to kick around. These youngsters had the opportunity to go with me to Palestine, and this is what happened. Samit. Normal, without warning. Bombs are falling on these kids as they are playing. Gunshots. And all of a sudden, this is what happens. Bomb, top of them, gunshots, and then the fall of youngsters down. A normal day, they being shot without a warning, without letting them know. Parents doesn't know. And then all of a sudden, you will see on news. And then the poor lady, she was shot. A news reporter, right in the face in front of everyone. A normal day in Gaza. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what's happening in Palestine. And therefore, we pray, we march, we fight, but we have to do a lot more. We need to stand together as one. We need to come together, all our organizations. And we need to do more, not just by word, but by action. Shukran to all of you.
Thank you very, very, very much to Bubi and Triple S for organizing that. Also, just to say thank you to Nawawi and his team who simulated the checkpoint entry. I'm not sure if those who came later actually had to go through the checkpoint, but those who came early had to go through a checkpoint and were randomly, to simulate that checkpoint, divided into the Palestinians who were denied access and marshaled into the gated area outside, and the Israelis were allowed free entry. And this is what Palestinians have to face daily, sometimes to get to their homes, their schools, their hospitals, their places of work. So thank you to Nawawi and his team. Next up, we are very pleased to have our next speaker, Reverend Dr. Alan Busak, who needs little introduction, I think, to the people of the Western Cape, has also provided some excellent and enlightening radio interviews this week in the lead up to today's commemoration. So welcome, Reverend.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I am so privileged and happy to be with you today on this commemoration of the Nakbah, and to show how important it is for us in South Africa, not just to think of the travails that we as a people have faced and must still face, but to be forever in solidarity with those whose struggles have not yet ended and whose struggles will probably be far prolonged, much longer than our own. The Nakbah is a catastrophe inflicted upon the Palestinian people. But it is a greater tragedy because it is not some natural disaster like a flood, a natural disaster like a drought or an earthquake. It is the outcome of a deliberate human mind that thought up this diabolical scheme, and it was enacted and executed by human hands. We know that this is not God's will, even though some people want to interpret it that way. This is something that human beings have wanted to happen. And that is why human beings like you and I have the power to stop them and to bring an end to it. You're not fighting God, you are fighting diabolical human beings. And we need to understand this, even as we begin to think about the meaning of the Nakbah. We recognize after 75 years what this might mean for Palestinians, that this is an imperialist scheme done together with the Zionists who knew that they were taking land that belonged to another. This was not some historical accident. They knew exactly what they were doing. And we should know exactly what it is that we are facing. I hear, as I watch the news, of all sorts of things that take priority, even in these past few weeks, where day after day after day, we saw Palestinians murdered on the streets of their homeland. From the absolutely trivial, banal, like Who is going to be invited to King Charles's coronation? Gaan hy sy kalle skoondogter met sy kalle kleinkinders nooi? That kind of gossip to the pompous banality of that man being a king, and some people in South Africa bowing down as if he is our royalty. On all that, while Palestinians are dying, I think, as I see day after day, hour after hour of the news, what about Palestine? It seems as if our world has come to a point where violence is everywhere. It is omnipresent and it is normalized. And everywhere and every day, just about the only violence we constantly hear about is the violence of the war in Ukraine, a proxy war by NATO and the United States, totally unnecessary, totally avoidable, entirely provoked by imperialist ambitions and expansion and by capitalist greed. I watch that war and I see the attention that it gets from people around the world. And sometimes it is almost ridiculous. At sports stadiums, people who don't even know where Ukraine is, standing up waving Ukrainian flags even though Ukraine is not even playing a match there. From that point to little girls on your YouTube channel, little white blonde girls, saying that if you buy a pizza from her, the proceeds will go for the protection of other little white girls in the Ukraine war. I see that and I think, but what about the Palestinians? I see how they count the dead. I see how every day they show us the pictures of the mothers and the fathers and the grandfathers and the grandmothers and the children who die in that unnecessary war. I see that and I think, but what about Shireen? But what about Kamal, Adnan, who just died? What about the Palestinians? Why don't we see that outpouring of sympathy, that outpouring of compassion, that outpouring of solidarity for the people of Palestine? And that's why we are here. What the world neglects to do, you and I must take up and do, not just today, but every single day. We will not allow them to forget that there is a place called Palestine, that there are people called Palestinians, that their land has been stolen like our land has been stolen. We can see this, that the occupation is not just the unfortunate outcome of a war that somebody lost. The occupation is an ongoing dispossession of Palestinians, of their land, of their dignity, of their future, of their very life. The occupation is what the Nakbah still is. It is an ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people. And if the world thinks to forget, it is up to us to make sure that they will ever remember, because we will shout it out to the world. If you talk about any place else in the world and you do not mention Palestine, we will say, what about Palestine? And so you must look at this development in the world through the lens of what we are doing here today, not just here today, but every day. We recognize this as genocide. Some people get upset when we say that the Israeli government is not just into ethnic cleansing. It has started a deliberate, well-designed and continuing program of genocide. But South Africans can say that because we recognize it. We know it when we see it. In our own history on this continent, there has been the genocide of the Khoi. and the sun right here by Dutch and British imperialists. In Namibia, there has been the genocide of the Nama people and the Herero and the Habambu people by Germans, equally Western imperialists who came here to do what they did. They never talk about what they now call the hidden Holocaust that happened in the Congo under King Leopold II of Belgium. 15 million Congolese, hear me right, 15 million Congolese, 3 times the number of Jews killed by Hitler. But we never hear about it because Congo does not matter. Congolese do not matter. Their lives do not matter. Their hopes do not matter. Their future does not matter, just as Palestinian lives do not matter. If they forget, we must raise the question, what about Palestine? That's where we are here today. But there is something else, my brothers and my sisters, that makes me feel so privileged that I'm here today, that we can think about these things together. Right at this moment, we have arrived at a turning point in history. Geoeconomically and geopolitically, the tectonic plates are shifting. The world is changing its shape, its character, its nature, and its future. We see things happening now. President Xi Jinping of China has said happening in 1 week that usually took 100 years to happen. And it's all happening in front of our very eyes. China and Russia are taking unprecedented and unexpected but successful diplomatic steps. Iran and Saudi Arabia have rapprochement. They are exchanging diplomatic representatives. The war in Yemen might even be coming to an end, inshallah. We see Syria being brought back into the fold of the Arab League. Amazing things are happening. The Middle East is changing. The character of politics in the Middle East is changing. The relationships of nations within the Middle East are changing. The relationships of the Middle East with the imperialist is changing. Things are happening. When all of this is happening, I cannot help to stop and look at this and think, all of this is happening, but what about Palestine? Although I hear that China seems to have a peace plan for Israel and Palestine. And I hear a rumor, and I know, and I think that's wonderful. And I hear a rumor that peace plan is based on what they still call the two-state solution. Now, I hope that we can say to the good people and the leadership of China, if you talk to anybody about this peace plan that you have in mind, do not forget to talk about the Palestinians and talk to the Palestinians, because they have told us what they want. We know after 75 years that every single peace plan that somebody has come up with from the West, every so-called road map towards peace has ended up as a dead-end street for Palestine. It was only a way to buy more time for more Israeli brutality, for more settlements as unchanging facts on the ground, as Trump put it one time. It was only to give them more time for more killing and for more dispossession and for more de-identifying Palestinians, and for more estrangement of Palestinians from their own hopes and their own aspirations and their own legitimate expectations in the land of their own birth and in the land of their ancestors. So watch out when you come to Palestinians with a peace plan. Please make sure that you hear the Palestinians when they say, what we want, we know that the two-state solution is dead because Israel killed it. We know that what they want is a unitary, secular state, a democratic state with guarantees for human rights and equality for everyone, not an exclusively, religiously, raciously state. And so when you talk about a peaceful solution, talk to Palestine. Don't let us come back a year from now, 2 years from now, and more settlements have been built, and more Palestinians have died, and more people have been just pushed into whatever wilderness Israel have been thinking about. We know that there is much attention now on what is happening in Israel. You see the news, thousands and thousands of Israelis on the streets. They are protesting their government's actions. But we must not forget that even though the Western world media and our own white-controlled media tell us that they are protesting because they are demonstrating for democracy, they are mourning the death of their democracy. I look at that and I think, oh yeah, how can you mourn the death of a democracy that has died long ago? How can you stand up for a court system that is no more than an apartheid-style court system with apartheid-style laws, with apartheid-style oppression, with apartheid-style prisons, with apartheid-style detention, without trial for children? They protest every single aspect that touches upon their lives, keeping alive the myth that that government right now under Netanyahu or under Benny or under whoever is the same fascist government that have been killing and murdering Palestinians for 75 years. And I ask again, if you look at those demonstrations, don't be fooled, but ask the question, what about Palestine? I want to share with you one more reason why I am privileged to be here with you today. And it is this. South Africans are not in a good place, Chairperson. We are literally in darkness as we sit here, but I am much more concerned about a much deeper and a greater darkness, and that's the darkness in our soul. We are not where we had hoped to be when we started this struggle so long ago. We are now a wounded, traumatized people, not just because of the trauma of 350 years of white supremacy and enslavement and oppression and colonialism and imperialism and apartheid, but because of the last 30 years of a new kind of enslavement, of a new kind of colonialist rule. Our leaders caring more about the pat on the head from their white Western bosses than from the love of their own people. We are in a deep, dark place at the moment. I know that. We have leadership without vision. We have corruption without shame. We have policies meaningful on paper, but meaningless because nobody cares to implement them because they don't care about our people. We are today the most unequal society in all the world. The gap between the rich and poor in South Africa is now wider than ever, and wider even than in the days of apartheid. And we have sat still for 30 years while the economy of the country remained captive in the hands of 6 white families and their white supporters and their black boys in parliament and in positions of power. So I know there are many of us who are saying we have our troubles. We have our difficulties. Our struggle is not yet over. Why should we worry about Palestine? But you heard our speakers earlier here today pleading with us not to allow our own difficulties to diminish the struggles of our Palestinian brothers and sisters. That's why I'm so proud and happy to be here with you, because here you are today, despite our difficulties, despite our trials, despite our hopelessness, despite our disappointments, despite our disillusionments. Here you are, still standing in solidarity with Palestine, still commemorating the Nakbah, still saying and believing that you know that South Africans will never be completely free unless and until Palestine is free. I've met people who have said to me, it's been going on for too long. It'll never happen. Look at the United States. They support Palestine, so they support the Israelis around every single corner. They give them money, they give them protection, politically and otherwise. They stand idly by while their guns and their subsidies kill Palestinian children, like we saw here on the beach, and while they kill medical workers trying to tend to wounded Palestinians, while they kill people in wheelchairs, targeting them as snipers take high fives for every shot that they kill. European countries are led by a bunch of cowards they call their leaders, who think that while they allow Israel to murder Palestinians, the blood of Palestinian children will wash the blood of the Jews off their own hands and the guilt of their own souls. Well, you cannot have such an unholy ritual and think that God will put it right. They might not know it, they might not want to know it, but we are here to tell them today. Whenever you stand up, whenever you say anything about this year, this 75th year of the Nakbah, don't say it without the Palestinians. And so I'm deeply honored to be part of this thing today. But don't give up because the battle has gone on for so long. We cannot give up because the Palestinians are not giving up. You can see them. I talked to a Palestinian young woman from one of our churches in Bethlehem, and at the end of our conversation, she says to me one word, and it's a word that I've never heard before, and I will never forget again. She just said to me, and I said, so what do you do in these situations? And she says, sumud. That means steadfastness. If Palestinians, under those circumstances, a young woman can still stand up and tell me in South Africa, sumud, who are we to give up? Especially not to give up on their behalf. So, my brothers and sisters, you must pray for one more day. Strength for one more day. Fight just one more day. Stand up just one more day. Give one step ahead just one more day. Stretch out your hand to Palestine just for one more day. And before you know it, that one day will become 10 days. That 10 days will become more. And you will be with Palestinians in lockstep, side by side, shoulder to shoulder, the day when victory comes. And now I am going to my end, but you know, I'm a black preacher, and when a black preacher tells you, I am coming to my end, I am moving to my chair, he's lying. But I have just one more thing to say. I was privileged to be in Palestine in 2016 as the guest of our friends there. And we walked to that apartheid wall. And the part that runs through Bethlehem, we stood in front of a part that had writing on it, graffiti. And what did that young man write on that wall? This is what those words say. This wall have a present, but it has no future. This wall may have a present, but it has no future. That must be some of the most hopeful words I have heard in all of my life. And I believe it is true. And I want you to remember this. Whenever you think of Palestine and you think of that apartheid wall, think about those words. This wall may have a present, but it has no future, because no struggle for justice is ever in vain. This wall may have a present, but it has no future, because violence, however horrific, may kill the body, but it can never kill our spirit. This wall may have a present, but it does not have a future, because a people determined to be free will overcome every obstacle, whatever you throw at them, because freedom is more precious than any oppressor will ever understand. This wall may have a present, but it has no future. Because there are people in Palestine, there are people in South Africa, there are people even in the United States of America who now in greater numbers are standing up and calling that call that Palestine has made its own and made our own. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That wall will fall. That wall will fall. If you lag behind today, you will not be there to see that wall fall. If you turn around today, you will not there to see that wall fall. If you give up now, you will not be there to see that wall fall. If you turn your back on Palestine today, you will have no right to rejoice for that moment when that wall does fall. And I'm telling you, that wall will fall. Hear me now, Netanyahu. Hear me now, Joe Biden. Hear me now, leaders of Europe. Hear me now, all those who do not have the courage to stand up for truth and who think that Palestine's joy, Palestine's pain, Palestine's suffering, Palestine's freedom has got nothing to do with you. Hear me now, that wall may have a present, but it has no future, and it will fall. Thank you, Chair.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Long live the spirit of no surrender of the Palestinian people. Long live. Long live the spirit of no surrender of the Palestinian people. Long live. Down with apartheid Israel, down. Down with apartheid Israel, down. A mantra. A mantra. All power to the Palestinian people. All power. All power. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Thank you, thank you, thank you very, very much, Reverend Bosak, for those very, very inspiring words. I want to draw attention to one aspect that perhaps we don't contemplate sufficiently, and that you would have seen as you entered the hall, some posters along the walls and the stands when you entered. Currently there's a global campaign that in fact has renamed Nakbah Day today as the Day of Return, to mark it not only as the day and the start of the catastrophe in 1948, but also to remind us on this day of the right of all of the Palestinians who were displaced during the Nakbah, to remind us of their right to return to their land. And I'm raising this because, as everyone else, all of the other speakers have drawn different parallels to our own fight against apartheid South Africa and the Palestinians' fight against apartheid Israel. So too, the fight of the Palestinians for the right to return is an unfinished struggle that we sit with today in South Africa. As victims of forced removals, we never won the fight for the right to return. And we cannot allow that same injustice for the Palestinians. So a reminder of that fight and that right to return for Palestinians. Also, drawing another parallel to South Africa, South Africa at the moment has been called upon by Palestinian civil society to take the lead in calling on a global anti-apartheid convention, to declare Israel an apartheid state, to call out Israel as an apartheid state. And South Africa and South African civil society, those who came through the struggle for freedom in this country, are ideally placed to lead such a global campaign. So we call on you, on your organizations, on your institutions, to support this global anti-apartheid convention that we hope to convene sometime in this year. An anti-apartheid convention that legislates BDS globally, that makes those states who continue to trade with Israel stand out, as opposed to those who are currently implementing BDS as being the outliers. We want those who continue to trade with Israel to be the outliers. And in this quest that we as the Palestine Solidarity Campaign are working very, very hard towards, to get BDS legislated through our government, through our parliaments, through our bills, we called upon our last speaker, with the who? Oh, sorry. We had one, we did have one invited speaker, and we're not sure whether she has arrived. Palestinian archaeologist, Abir. Say it. It's not clear whether she's here. Is there anyone who can give us an indication of whether or not she's here? She's not here. Okay. Okay. So we will, just before our conclusion, we will conclude, by the way, with a resolution which we are going to circulate. I think it's on some, it has been distributed on some of your chairs, but we do have extra ones at the back. So we will conclude with reading the part of this resolution that really matters, and we are really hoping that this resolution falls on the ears of all of the politicians, the parliamentarians who are present here today. So we call now on our Deputy Minister of International Relations, who is representing our Minister, Dr. Naledi Pandor, who is unable to be here. Sorry, I didn't know you were standing.
Very much. Amanda, power, power. Long live Yusuf Arafat, long live. Long live Yusuf Arafat, long live. No, thank you very much, Prof. And thank you very much, Dr. Busak. I've heard the echoes and the vibrations of your speech. And let me apologize for not having been here earlier on, and I'll explain why. But the first issue, ladies and gentlemen, Comrade Sheikh, afternoon. I think we, obviously from the side of government, are quite inspired, Comrade Khalid, that this is a cross-political party convergence today. And during our time in Cape Town and in South Africa, the last time that you had this cross-political party convergence was during the time of the United Democratic Front. Because we have to explain to our people that the struggle of the Palestine people is not a Muslim struggle, ladies and gentlemen. It's a struggle of self-determination. It's a struggle of social justice and erring on the side of the most vulnerable. We obviously have to contrast the struggle of the most vulnerable and the Palestine people and contrast it to how the state of Israel look at it in terms of what they understand their superior logic is. Because one of its key tenets for you to qualify to be a population member of the state of Israel, there's only one requirement, ladies and gentlemen, that you must be a Jew. And you must be anti-Palestine in your outlook. Just one requirement. Whereas in Palestine, you have Muslim and Christian Palestinians and Arabs that coexist along each other. And I thought that is important that I make this type of a statement, because the struggles of the Palestine people probably it fortifies what is the values of self-determination today. It's about a principle and a just cause. That is the issues. And the optics, ladies and gentlemen, through which we look at the struggles of the Palestine people can be no different through the optics through which the struggles of the South African people have been looked at. So when we speak about today a very important issue, and I just came from I was part of the United States Special Envoy, Dr. Busak, that had to go to the USA and speak about a number of things. And I think everyone here knows today that there was a public utterances from the ambassador of the USA, isn't it so? So Professor Sidney Mofomari, obviously, as we are here speaking, are still concluding the virtual press briefing. But I obviously want to take the audience into confidence on what government is doing, what Africa are doing, what the Global South are doing, and who are our friends. And unfortunately, I would not be able to say who is not our friends.
because I'm standing here as a government, minister, and with foreign policy, unlike Comrade Sheikh that can call a spade, I can't do that. But ladies and gentlemen, look, the major issue and the key rallying point why we are converging today, just one, if you go home, because many people have said many things today. If you go home tonight and anyone asks you, what was this about? Because many people said many things. You just need to remember one word. It's about annexation. It's about annexation. An illegal annexation of the land of the Palestine people by the state of Israel. Isn't it so? It's very simple. And then you must explain to your family and to your friends that today, as we are speaking, when you open your television, everyone speaks about the war of Russia and Ukraine, isn't it so? And when you look at analysts, when analysts explain this war, it says, no, this war is about the annexation of the land of Ukrainian people by the Russian Federation. That is what they say, isn't it so? And they say because of that annexation of the land of the Russian Federation, of the land of Ukraine, it says my time is up. All right, let me summarize. Let me summarize. So what I'm saying is that, the same annexation today, you have the G7, all the most industrialized countries in the world, that says that the annexation of the lands of the Ukrainian people, it's illegal, it's unjust, and that the entire world must rally around them. Isn't it so? But you don't have the same voices that speaks with the same level of anger to the annexation of the land in 1948 of the Palestine people. So I think what we are advocating as a government is that we are very happy that all political parties, except few, has endorsed the call of government to grade our embassy to a lower level. So as we are speaking there, we don't have an ambassador. And we're unlikely to send the ambassador in a very short period of time to Israel. Our ambassador to the state of Palestine is Ambassador Sean Beineveld, one of our greatest, repository in our struggle. And I think I want to obviously make the commitment today on behalf of government that we will work with all non-state actors. All non-state actors, your mosques, religious societies, your churches, NGO groupings, to fortify our intervention in relation to the plight of the Palestine people. That is the commitment that we want to make. We'll continue to advance for absolute solidarity on the African continent, ladies and gentlemen, on the plight and the fight of the Palestine people. You know, as I know, that Morocco supports now the struggle of self-determination of the Palestine people. You know that. So we'll continue to speak to Morocco, although we disagree with Morocco on the issues of Western Sahara, isn't it so? So I want to take you into confidence and say that, the Nakbah, 75 years since the annexation, illegal occupation of the land of the Palestine people, in government, we are underpinning and we are inspired by the report of your Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, which says that the conduct of the state of Israel resonant that conduct of the state of apartheid during the anti-apartheid struggle, and will obviously in the United Nations General Assembly continue to make the case for the reactivation, ladies and gentlemen, of UNGA's Committee on Apartheid, Israel. And that is one of the commitments, obviously, on behalf of Dr. Pandu, the Minister of Turco, that obviously I want to give here today. I say, long live the struggles of the Palestine people, long live. Long live Yasser Arafat, long live. Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you so much.
Free, free Palestine. Can't hear you. Free, free Palestine. Hello, hello. Free, free Palestine. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Free, free Palestine. I can't hear anything. Free, free Palestine. 1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more. 5, 6, 7, 8. Israel is a racist apartheid state. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
I thought people said the sound wasn't working. It sounded like it's working absolutely fine. Thank you, Nadeem. Thank you very, very much, Alvin. We are coming to the end of our program, and which is a good thing, because we have had people from the media here who are ending their broadcasting and recording at 4 p.m. So our intention was to stop before then. For our conclusion, I do want to draw your attention to this pamphlet. Do all of you have this pamphlet on your seats? Has this been distributed to everybody? This pamphlet here contains the resolution that we want to end the day with. And I want to draw attention to the last couple of paragraphs on this pamphlet. Not only for you to reflect on, but also, as we said earlier, to please take it home and share it, distribute it, copy it, and share it and read it. Firstly, based on our experience in the struggle against apartheid during the 1980s, international solidarity consisting of widespread and comprehensive and strong boycotts, divestment and sanctions against the Israel regime and Zionists will be effective in shifting conditions more favorably towards the liberation of Palestine. We know well that piecemeal selective BDS targets and national campaigns have limited and insufficient impact to shift the balance of forces in favor of Palestine. We as South Africans, we have a moral and political and historical responsibility to meaningfully support the liberation of Palestine through the BDS campaign. We believe that the BDS campaign in South Africa will be most effective if it is enforced through comprehensive legislation and supported by our South African government and state. We've heard the admissions that the current governing party is culpable in many, many ways, and we're hoping that today they hear us. As we resolve in this meeting, as this congregation, as this commitment of comrades to support the Anti-Apartheid Convention for Palestine, an initiative from civil society in Palestine to abolish Israeli apartheid and promote BDS and other solidarity action. And we commit to develop BDS legislation for submission to the South African Parliament for debate and adoption, entrenched with a justiciable Bill of Rights in line with the words of Nelson Mandela that Reverend Busak also quoted. We know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of Palestinians. And what we must emphasize that as part of this legislation, there has got to be prosecution of mercenaries who are fighting in the Israeli Defense Force from South Africa. We have started litigations, cases against such individuals, but there is a lot of dragging of feet. We believe that if this campaign can be taken up and supported by all the political parties, that we can lead the way as other countries have started doing and are in fact far ahead of us, which is an indictment of us as South Africans and our own history, that we are not leading in the BDS campaign as a state to enforce BDS against Israel. So, in adopting this resolution, can I ask all of you to raise your hands in favor of the adoption of this resolution? Thank you very, very much. So it is unanimously adopted. For the record, the resolution of all the people who stand in solidarity with the liberation of Palestine. Can we end with the sounds of genocide? And for those of you who came late, a reminder of what it is that you are listening to. This is not a sound or sounds recorded in a studio, a mix, as they say. These are real sounds that the people of Gaza are subjected to on a daily basis. Thank you and shukran to everybody for your patience with us and for joining us and supporting us in this resolution today. I think, Yusuf, you said there's still some fruit and food, if there is outside. If you can please help yourself as you leave, please. And please don't forget to take the Muslim views, to take the resolutions with you. And also, you all have a little flyer with the bank.